Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me to Unbreakable-You weekly podcast. This is Olga Benyaminov, your healing and empowerment coach. And today I want to continue our February month where we talk about healing. The third week of healing is really boundaries. I want you to learn to choose yourself because self love is really not selfish, it's just self protection. And as we spoke about this month, we talked about healing your heart. We talked about awareness. We also covered compassion, which sometimes we lack towards ourselves, not necessarily towards others. And now, boundaries. Boundaries are so important. A lot of people don't understand what boundaries are and interpret self love as selfishness. Self love is not selfish, it's really self protection. And for many of us, especially women, that feels so uncomfortable because we were not raised to protect ourselves. We were raised to accommodate, to be people pleaser, to make sure somebody else is happy. So let's cover what is boundary really? What does boundaries really mean? And I want to start by clearing something up. Boundaries are not walls. These are not punishments. These are not revenges. These are not things you do to get back at someone. Boundaries are concise things that feel safe for your nervous system. These are clarities for your own nervous system. When your body tightens around someone, that someone needs a boundary. When you feel anxiety before responding, that demands a boundary. When you feel drained after every interaction, that's not because you're being dramatic. It's because your nervous system is asking for protection. Boundaries are self respect in action. They say, this is what I allow. This is what I no longer tolerate. And this is what keeps me emotional safe. The emotional safety is not luxury. This is the foundation of your well being. I want to start with a personal story and when I didn't actually have boundaries. For years, I believed that love meant flexibility. It meant understanding the other person. It meant being patient even when my body was saying no. And I thought being mature meant tolerating more. Being strong meant staying calm no matter what. But here's what I learned the hard way. Every time I over explained my feelings, every time I justified disrespect, every time I gave one more chance, I wasn't being loving to myself. I was actually abandoning myself. And when you abandon your own self long enough, your nervous system pays the price. You feel anxious, you feel reactive, you feel exhausted. Not because you are weak, but because you are unprotected. So, why choosing yourself feels lonely at first? And that's important to understand. When you start setting boundaries, something very unexpected happens. It gets quiet. Some people fall away. Some conversations stop. Some dynamics shift. And that quiet can feel like loneliness. But what it really is, it's space. Space where chaos used to be, space where anxiety used to live, and space where you used to overfunction. Choosing yourself feels lonely at first because you're no longer betraying yourself for connections. But guess what? This is actually growth. Stop explaining your healing to people who hurt you. This one may sit painfully for you. You do not owe long explanations to people who repeatedly ignored your feelings. Boundaries do not require dissertation. You can say, that doesn't work for me. I am not available for that. I need space. And stop right there. When you over explain, you are usually seeking permission. But self respect does not require someone else's approval. No is a complete sentence. Your healing is not a debate, it's a decision. And the more you explain yourself to people who benefit from your lack of boundaries, the more you re enter the dynamic that you're trying to leave. I want to bring something very important to you: nervous system safety. As someone that's trained in science, I need you to understand this. Your body keeps a score. When you stay in an environment when you feel criticized, dismissed, manipulated, emotionally unsafe, your nervous system stays in fight or flight mode. This is not sustainable. Boundaries regulate your nervous system. They lower anxiety. They restore clarity. They rebuild self-trust. Every time you honor your boundaries, your body learns, I am safe with myself. So now let's make it practical. How do you set those boundaries? If you struggle with boundaries, start with the first thing. Notice the resentment. So resentment is a boundary that you did not set. Where do you feel that resentment? That's your clue. Find out that place where it's something that bothers you, but yet you keep tolerating it. Practice the discomfort. For step number 2, practice that. Boundaries feel uncomfortable at first, not because they are wrong, but because they are new. So discomfort doesn't mean danger. It just means something you have to sit with and accept it and learn that this is good for you. Number 3, start small. You don't need to be very dramatic and start declaring it, right? Start with not answering immediately. Start with saying, I'll think about it. Start by declining something minor. Small boundaries build self-trust. And once you're good with those small boundaries, you will learn to identify bigger things that bother you. And you will learn to work on those much bigger discomforts or much bigger things that affect your nervous system. Now, I want you to also reflect on that. If you're listening to me, my previous lives, you know that I always talk about journaling. Journaling is so important because that's the reflection. That's how you write your feelings at a time. I want you to reflect on this. Where do I need to say no, even if it actually feels uncomfortable? I know a lot of us say yes to things that don't serve us, even though we know it's going to be hard for us to do that. We overextend ourselves to help someone and then later find out that that person just ungrateful or just didn't even notice how much effort that took you to do certain things. So that is when we say yes without honoring ourselves. So I want you to just look into those events where you had to say no, but you didn't. Not from a place of anger, not from a place of drama, but just honestly. Where are you saying yes out of fear of losing someone? Where are you shrinking to just maintain peace? That's where your healing wants to begin. Identify those times. Identify what you said yes to where you actually should have said no. Self-love is self-protection. Self-love is not bubbles and affirmations and all those, things that people think that will be interpreted as self-love. Self-love is protecting your peace. Self-love is choosing your nervous system over chaos that you may not identify at first as a chaos. Self-love is no longer negotiating your worth. If someone experienced your boundaries as rejection, it actually means they benefited from you not having those boundaries. Choose yourself, and choosing yourself may actually change your relationships, but it will transform your life. Not everyone that you currently have in your life will stay when you start setting boundaries and when you starting saying no for things that no longer serve you. But guess what? Now you will start having quality in your life. You will start honoring yourself, uh, your self boundaries, and that would create relationships that are much better for your nervous system. So the work that I do with women in Unbreakable-You is really deep work, because boundaries are not just behavioral changes, they are identity shifts. In Unbreakable-You coaching, I work on rebuilding self-trust, learning to set boundaries without actually feeling guilty, regulating your nervous system when there is that anxiety that pops up because of circumstances, healing the fear of abandonment, and creating relationships that actually feel safe and reciprocal. You don't need to become harder. You just need to become clearer. And you don't have to do this alone. If you are ready to stop over explaining and start honoring yourself, reach out. I would be honored to support you. And let's close this. I always love to close with something that is affirming, or a little bit of a closing affirmation. I want you to place your hand on your heart. And I think I explained how this really calms your nervous system when you have your hand on your heart. So place your hand on your heart and repeat after me. I am allowed to protect my peace. My boundaries are an act of love. I choose myself without guilt. You are not losing people when you set your boundaries. You are losing dynamics that require you to shrink. And that is not selfish. This is self-protection. This is healing. And this is unbreakable. Thank you for tuning in today, and I will see you again next week.